have my Marvel shirt prepared because we're gonna be talking about Deadpool too.
Perfect.
All right. I had the hoodie, and the thing I thought before we even started, right, when I was setting up everything, I was thinking in my head, oh, it's really interesting how I always wear like a hoodie, I'm casual, and then whoever's always co-host wears a suit. And then I joined the hangout, and then I was just like, oh shit, you just fucking threw me completely off. But it's great. I love it.
Dude. I psyoped you like Adam Kokesh psyoped you.
Yeah. I see you going, well, it's Boomer or the Halsey beard.
I was gonna say that there's an element of Halsey here too. Yes.
Yeah, no, and like he's a friend of the show, so now it's like he's there in spirit almost. You know what I mean?
We'll bring Halsey on to debate Halsey.
Yeah, exactly. So you have his beard, and he stole my background, so it's like we're all sharing each other's things, and
I can do the debate in the certain voice, talking about the shackles and all, and I can.
Please, someone clip that and send it to Halsey.
Halsey v. Halsey.
Yeah, and then we'll be. I see Sticks is in the chat. 8:00. We're gonna have Sticks in, and I was watching a ton of his videos and have a bunch of things I want to talk to him about, and I've set up a list of things to speak to him about. But before we start everything, when we did our show last week, we jumped from topic to topic, and it was excellent. I had a lot of fun, right? Now, one thing we did talk about was the Marvel Universe and how it sort of mirrors a lot of things that have been either written about or are happening, and sort of making comparisons about how the movies are being used to desensitize certain audiences into things that may happen in the future, right? We were talking about that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. So I wasn't retarded, 100% retarded, which is fucking awesome. And before I move on to the next point, just real fast, Pop TV for 5. He says, first, suck it, losers. Pop TV, just so you know, when we started Warski Live, back when it was just me and Chris, was always the first donator, always. And he's back on it. He's good. Yo, thanks, Pop TV. Mike for $10 says, show me your weenus. We might do that on Plex Storm. You ever hear of Plex Storm? It's the Twitch where you're allowed to show your dick, basically.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. And Kyler threw 2 for no homo. We are smoking penises. And then for another 2, why is dressed like he sells meth?
I'm here to pick up Andy's mom when she comes on.
Wow. Oh, banned. No, I'm just kidding. Banned from the stream. Nah. And again, thank you for everyone for last week. Those were nice comments and people enjoyed. So let's keep this going. And the thing we want to talk about, I watched Deadpool 2 on, I believe, was it Sunday night? And you just watched it today, right?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let's. Okay. So what did you think of the movie before we move on to discussion?
So I had to smash both of them in today because that's the only Marvel ones I haven't seen is Deadpool 1 and 2.
Oh,
so I
really?
watched them both.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched them both today, and immediately what blew me away in the first one was the fact that he's a vet and he's literally put into a kind of super soldier program, roughly similar to the kind of thing that Captain America goes through. But this is a little different. It's some kind of private, shady entity. And they're basically trying to commandeer not just evolution to, kick on his evolving to the next state, but they're trying to traumatize him and basically create a super soldier by tinkering with his cancer. And what blew me away was that that's actually real. There are programs where they not just test out super soldier type stuff, but they actually try to tinker with cancer to see if there actually might be a secret to longevity in cancer study, believe it or not.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole book on that.
Yeah. Okay, you have all the fucking books ready.
I'm not just here to plug books, but Dr. Mary's Monkey is a famous book on cancer research and the SV40 cancer virus being put into the vaccines, which is a real case that happened several decades ago. But that was part of a larger study on the effects of cancer in mass. So I think you can trace that directly to real programs that happen. But MK Ultra is something I've talked about in a lot of my shows and podcasts and written about in my book. That was a real program to not just tinker with the minds of, or the psyche of soldiers and assassins or whatever, but actually to engineer and create a kind of a new evolved humanity. So roughly speaking, not exactly, but the idea of the X-Men as this kind of next phase of evolution is somewhat real. There's a kernel of truth in that.
Yeah, and all this stuff's been like declassified, and there's evidence of it and all that.
Yeah, there's a famous book that deals with a lot of the declassified info. Again, I'm just sourcing myself because a bunch of haters are going to come on Twitter and be like, "You're just making this shit up, man. It's a bunch of shit you're making up."
Which before,
I have hundreds of books back here. Not that a book, I mean, books could be bullshit, but this is a famous book too that deals with the CIA mind control. And his last chapter, he wrote this in the 70s, dude. His last chapter was about, he talked about DARPA. He talked about the microchipping of soldiers, which is what began in the first Desert Storm. All of that is part of the same project.
How about nanobots? Is that like a real thing?
Yeah.
Because I remember playing the first Metal Gear Solid when I was a kid, and I love that game. Like I love that game. It was friggin' amazing. And yeah, like I remember he's infused with nano technology, and I remember because they're in I think somewhere in Antarctica or Alaska, wherever it's cold, some cold place, and that's where the base is. And he's freezing his ass off, and they actually like trigger the nanobots to heat up his body from the inside. Is that like that's real shit, right?
I don't know how far the nanotechnology is. Obviously, a lot of that's going to be classified, but there are writings that deal with how that will be eventually implemented. So I assume they're writing as if it's going to be the case. So I just did I'm halfway through like a 600-page book on DARPA and the history of DARPA. It's called The Pentagon's Brain by Annie Jacobson. I did a whole talk on it the other day, but yeah, halfway into her book, and she's already talking about where they're going to go with nanotech, and DARPA is who developed nanotech and the internet.
Do you think that's a positive thing? The enhancing of
yeah. I mean, any of this stuff could be positive. It's just a question of whether the ruling oligarchs, are going to allow it to be something positive, or whether they can also turn it into a negative thing. And unfortunately, they can and have. Yeah,
I remember also seeing, because it was funny, because when I was a kid, when I played that game, a Metal Gear, like a lot of the things you go, it's like science fiction, like they wouldn't have that. And one of the things they had was the camo. It's a big thing in the whole series. When you beat it, you receive stealth camouflage. When you turn it on, you're basically, you're see-through basically. But you could sort of see the outline and all that. And then I remember reading up on something where they actually made a suit where it's basically like tons of tiny little like screens.
Yeah.
And in between the screens have little cameras that film the opposite end that show on the screen. So that shit exists too, right?
I would say that exists too. There's a good possibility that exists. I mean, I haven't seen it in person, but yeah, I've seen similar types of articles claiming that. But I would say that's within the realm of possibility for sure. I mean, there's actually one of the Bond films. I do a lot of analysis of James Bond movies, and one of the Pierce Brosnan era James Bond films actually had that very idea in it. So I would tend to say that most of the gadgets you see in Bond films do come to be real, and so I would say it's very likely. Although I'm not basing it on the fact that it was in a movie. So.
Yeah. And also it's so funny now when we see like those old pieces of media that have these things that when you watched it at the time, you're like, yeah, right, all right. And now you see it now and go, we already have like 7 versions of that thing. Like it's already been out forever. But yeah. So anyway, back on Deadpool 2. So yeah, you were saying from the first movie that is sort of based on things that they have actually done. I mean, not to obviously the extent of what Deadpool is,
right?
Because he gets his head chopped off, puts it back on, and it's like, it works perfectly fine. So obviously
his bottom half cut off, and he like has to grow his cock back and all that.
Yeah. In part 2, we'll try not to spoil too much, but there is that that scene where his legs are growing back. Oh my god! I want to know, like, okay, just so I can get like a feel for the room, people in the audience. Press 1 if you've seen Deadpool. Okay, press 2 if you haven't, and press 3 if you don't care if there's spoilers, and press 4 if you go fuck off, don't say any spoilers, or I'll smack you out. So
and press 5 if you want me to grow my cock like he does.
And press 6 if you're feeling good right now. Press no, just let's just make a whole list of shit you could press. Okay, so we have a 1, 1, 3 that they don't care. There was a 1. Okay, there's 1, 4 so far. I won't spoil too much. Don't worry. We'll try our best. Most people don't care. All right, most people don't care, but we won't spoil too much. Okay, there's a lot of 4s now. Never mind. There's a lot of 4s. It might be spammed though. I don't know, but but we'll try to keep it. But there is, a scene where his bottom half is ripped off, and he has like toddler legs. And there is that one part where it's sort of the scene from what's that movie again? I was thinking Basic Instinct, is it? No.
Yeah, he makes a Basic Instinct joke, and
where
it was kind of reminding me of Benjamin Button, that piece of shit movie where Brad Pitt grows old and young at the same time. Remember that?
Yeah, like he ages backwards almost, but still has the proportions of the age. But his skin tone.
He's an old baby.
Yeah, and then grows super like young. So that's okay. So yeah, sorry, I was just reading the chat first. Okay, can we have a lot of 6s right now? But yeah, okay. Sorry, let's go back on the movie. Anyway, so about the first movie. So what did you think overall about the first movie? And is there any comments you want to make on it? I haven't seen it since it was out, but
yeah, I mean it was funny. The Marvel movies seem to be getting a little more comedic. If Infinity War was very comedic. It was enjoyable. I was just mainly struck by that aspect of the series and how we've seen, again, Winter Soldier and Captain America go through similar types of stuff. But this was unique because it was specifically tinkering with the fact that he had cancer. And as I've talked about in a lot of the talks, and even last time I mentioned that book by Arthur Kessler, Ghost in the Machine, he talks about the fact that what the elite want to do is commandeer evolution and force people into the X-Men type scenario to evolve to the next stage. So, I mean, that really stuck out in this one. The first one.
Are you down for that? Like, do you think that not even just military, like, but like, I'm just talking about like actual just regular civilians. Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't think they're going to give anything out to the regular civilians positive, precisely because that's who they want to see culled. They want to cull that population, drastically, and then keep, the pros, whatever works for them and their elite families. So, no, I don't think it's a good thing because, as most of them write, the experimentation with this kind of stuff involves testing it on the public, which is something that, the government's been busted and sued doing this kind of stuff many, many times. So it shouldn't be surprising that they're still trying to do this.
I think if I had nothing like happening with my life, if I didn't see a prospect, like I'd sign up for that shit.
Yeah, that was kind of the plot of Avatar. If you saw that, with like the big giant gay Smurfs.
Yeah.
It was basically like Fern Gully redone.
Yeah.
It was exact same plot as Fern Gully. But yeah, the Sam Worthington character, that soldier, he's got like, bum legs, and so they put him into this machine that transfers his consciousness into the big Smurf. So certainly a lot of these projects have been tested out on vets and Wounded Warrior Project type stuff. And I'm not saying that it hurts everybody who goes into those projects, but I'm saying that the long-term goal is not really to help the vets or to help people in general. It's for the people who own all those resources and those corporations.
I wanted to bring up something from like on the same topic, but from something I was thinking about since Friday, basically, when you were talking about how Marvel is trying to desensitize us to certain, things that may happen in the future. Now, the one thing I was thinking about is, do you think that the writers are doing that to desensitize people, or are they just pulling from real life stories? Like, for example, with the Thanos plot about, him, trying to snap his fingers and half the universe is gone. And how you were saying that the government is trying to, decrease the population. Now, do you think that they're desensitizing people, or do you think? Because here's what I was thinking, is if they didn't use certain real world elements or things that are creepy, then what stories would we have to tell in movies? You know what I mean? Maybe like meaning, you know what I mean, right?
Right. No, I don't. I'm not saying that every bad guy was put there by the government to like get us to believe what the bad guy wants. No, of course not. I mean, you're right there, but what I'm getting at is more that you actually can trace out in most of these production companies and studios a direct connection between big government agencies or the Pentagon and the studios. So, for example, the CIA has a couple public liaisons between Hollywood, Chase Brandon, Milt Bearden. They consult on a lot of films. They give advice on the stories and the narratives to be accurate about, CIA narratives or whatever. But a lot of things have come out too, like FOIA requests. There was a recent FOIA request that found that there were 8,000 films and television shows in the last several years that the Pentagon had put money into. So there's hard documentation. You just look up that FOIA request about the Pentagon funding movies. So there's hard paper trail right there. But when I did a lecture in the UK a couple of weeks ago, one of the things I talked about was an interview with, I think his name's Friedman, if I recall, but you can find his interviews on YouTube. He's the creator and the writer of Transformers and G.I. Joe. And he openly talks about in his lectures on YouTube, his interviews, that it was all in consultation with not just the Army and the military and for recruitment, but he was also working with big mega corporations to tailor everything in G.I. Joe and these various cartoons to train the minds of the children watching it. He's very candid about it. He's just like, everything I wrote, I did it to screw with the kids' minds and to get them to buy the shit and to join the military.
Wow. I mean, like having the G.I. Joe, it's pretty transparent to see. Yeah, it's encouraging being, a soldier essentially, and then like Barbie to be like pretty and a model and all that stuff. But do you think that's a negative thing at all?
Well, no, it's not that the idea of the soldier is. It's rather that that from the vantage point of, like, say, the U.S. military, they're interested in propaganda and using Hollywood and propaganda for recruitment. For example, Reagan allocated a bunch of money to this in the 80s to Hollywood movies for propaganda, like Top Gun. Top Gun was a movie that my dad saw. It influenced his decision to join the Navy. But so it's not that I mean, propaganda can be used for positive or negative aspects, sure. But the point is that if you understand, American foreign policy or the vantage point of America, I wouldn't want to fight in those wars. I don't want to fight a war for Subway and McDonald's to be erected in Iraq. It's just retarded. And none of those wars serve us or the people. They're only advantageous for, the top military industrial complex type Raytheon, Boeing, Halliburton companies. That's the only people that profit from those wars. So they're not about the U.S. or noble patriotism. It's about, being a servant to McDonald's. And quite literally, you're going to go die for McDonald's. I saw an article the other day saying now that we've, basically redone Iraq, there's going to be McDonald's in Iraq. I mean, who wants to die for McDonald's? Not me.
Well,
maybe Andy does.
I have eaten McDonald's in the past. I said this before.
No, but I mean, you don't want to die for McDonald's.
No, 100%. I understand. I'm not like eating it every single day, but when you're I'm on the road or something,
sure, and
I'm away from home, I'll munch on it. But I'm very aware of how I'm not like, it's okay. No, I understand when I'm eating it. I'm like, if you eat something and the second later you're like, I have to shit, that's probably not a good thing. Right? That's probably a bad thing. It's actually a funny story. I worked there, fucking 13 years ago or something, or even
last year.
Even last year. I was working there last year for a little bit. I remember
That's how you're so good at the call through, like the drive-in transfer as well to the talk.
Yeah. Actually, I was just in the kitchen because back then my stutter was horrific. It was like I tried it one time and I like looked at my manager and I'm like, this is not gonna work, because they'll be like, I used to do this thing where I'd always stutter on the first word really bad. So say I was like, hey, how are you? It'd be like, hey, how are you? So people were on the like, and everyone's wearing a headset, almost everyone, and you could all hear what's happening on the drive-through. So the person would be like, hello, hello, and I'm like, hello, is anyone there? Like, and I'm just like, hi. My manager's like, yeah, no worries, dude. But I remember we were all doing like having a meeting there, right? And we're sitting there, and one of the employees, one of my buddies, said something along the lines of, yeah, but we all know how unhealthy it is for you. Or he called it a garbage food or something. And the one manager who we knew ate there every single day fucking flipped out. It's not bad for you. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, what? And I actually saw him recently. He still works there. And he's a big dude now. He went from really skinny to being a really big dude. It's just funny how like the managers in there are like just brainwashed to believe, no, it's okay for you. What are you talking about? Like someone.
I didn't even know that. So you had to overcome a stutter, I guess, to do what you're doing.
Oh yeah, actually, it was in high school, grade 11. I was in a religion class, and in school when we would read a book, a chapter together, or whatever of whatever textbook we had, it would be like, all right, so a corner of the room starts, and you read the first paragraph, and then when you finish that, the next person reads the next one, right? And I used to count. Like, oh, okay, I'll be the 7th person, and I would start creating the stutter and all this stuff, and then I'd basically like, it was horrific. And my teacher was just like, he brought me after class. He's like, is everything okay, man? Like, I see you can't talk properly. And I told him about the stutter. Then he encouraged me to get speech pathology, which I did that. When that started working out a little bit better, I started doing stand-up, because I was like, I want to do the hardest thing a stutter could ever do. And I would always start my sets with like stuttering jokes. So if I ever stuttered later, it broke the ice and people knew. And then I started doing YouTube, and then boom, here I am right now. That's what happened. Yeah. Because
you had a little Eric B or a little Rakim that was constantly remixing.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I've said this before, but when I was 4, I had a babysitter who used to beat me, basically, which created trauma.
Trauma-based Andy control.
That's it. Shit. Yeah. But I've talked about it a million times, and yeah, that's how that's happened. And just real fast, we have Elizabeth Lurker for 4. Much love, Frankie. Crucial Bunny. Aldous Huxley called it transhumanism, and that's the evolution of people using modifications. And DFC for 266. Jay, can you please do your Warski impression?
I might grace us with that as the show progresses.
All right, sounds good.
They'll have to keep watching.
Yeah. All right.
So since they super chatted, I will.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So back to Deadpool. All right. So you watched the first one, and yeah. So any other comments on that one at all? Besides that
was the main thing that stuck out. I mean, when I got to the second one, kind of. Yeah. Well, actually, of course, there's a strap-on scene in the first one. I was like, oh, dude.
It's too hot.
But anyway. No, that's all that comes to mind in the first one. But yeah, the second one was all right. I like the first one a little bit better, I think. But I did like seeing Cable and Juggernaut. I was always a Cable fan back when I was younger. That was one of my favorite characters.
Uh-oh, you just spoiled something a little bit.
Well, if you saw the trailer, people know that Cable's in it.
No, the other guy. There. I
have no filter on
Kumite. I literally muted myself. Told people to mute themselves for 20 seconds so I could say that he was in the movie.
Oh shit.
Oh,
I'm not used to
no,
that. I'm not
it's
used
cool.
to the
It's
big
cool.
time with Andy. This is the fucking big time with Andy. I'm not used to that.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I want to see. I want to see what people have to say about that. Definitely. But he was fucking awesome in the movie. Holy shit. They really. I used to watch X-Men when I was a kid, and they fucking nailed it. Because on X-Men 3, they made him look like shit. So
And
yeah.
there's a, we could call him Buggernut because there's a funny buggery scene towards the end.
Yeah. Now, okay, for that. Okay, for that movie. Now you noticed a couple of interesting things in the movie. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, somebody sent me that from 4chan, and I was skeptical. I was like, I don't. There's not a Karl Marx painting in Professor X's estate, but sure enough, I watched the film, and it was there in multiple. Well, it was really quick, but kind of subliminal in the background. And what does that mean? I think it suggests something like cultural Marxism. I think it suggests the fact that the X-Men have always represented in a way so-called revolution or revolutionary forces. If you saw X-Men First Class, that was the whole point of that, was Magneto and his crew being anti-human, and then the X-Men working with the CIA. Hello, that's everything I was just telling you about. MK Ultra and DARPA. They're going to protect humanity. So it's bizarre because if you saw, what was it, X-Men, was it Apocalypse, or what, the one where they went back to the JFK assassination? That was pretty crazy.
Was that Apocalypse? I didn't see Apocalypse, or I didn't see that one. I didn't see the the one where First Class. Never watched that one.
So you notice that they're consciously tying in all these real conspiratorial themes. I mean, there was a lot to do with like the all-seeing eye and whatever that last X-Men was. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's consciously put there. And by the way, Shane Black, who, if I recall, he wrote Captain America Winter Soldier. He's done a ton of conspiracy related films. He did that one with what's her name? Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis from the 90s, where she has dissociation and she's basically an MK Ultra assassin. So I mean, he's been writing about these things consistently. Yeah.
Was that Shaft?
No. It's
that's all I can think of right now. That was a dumb idea. Yeah, I'm sorry. I take it all back.
Point of No Return? No, that's Bridget Fonda. Anyway, I can't. You just look up the Gina Davis, Samuel L. Jackson 90s movie. I forget the name of it, but somebody in the chat will know what it is. But anyway, he's written tons of consciously conspiratorially themed big films. He did the original, the first Avengers when it came out.
Okay. Do you hang on? Back to the painting.
Long Kiss Goodnight. That's it. Long Kiss Goodnight.
Never heard of that in my life, but
it's not that great. But it's a conspiracy themed.
Yeah, but did you think that the painting, like, it's you're saying it's a subliminal, right?
But I think you could argue that one was, yeah.
Yeah, really? But I mean, like, people would have like seen it, like it wasn't like hidden enough that you could be like, is that him? It's obviously, if you pause it, you could see that it's him, right?
Well, not all subliminals follow like a rigid rule that it has to be like a freaking, magic eye thing from the 90s or whatever. I mean, there's different ways that you could do subliminals. Or if you watch a lot of directors' commentaries on films, they'll oftentimes talk about how they or the art directors or production team or whoever consciously will put those things in the background. I mean, I created a TV show and we did that. I worked with producers that guy, 2-time Emmy-winning producer, and so we were very open about the symbology of the set and what the placement of things, and directors are very candid about that as well. If you watch just a typical example that's not conspiratorial, Citizen Kane, if you watch my mom's going blank, who's the top Ebert, if you watch Ebert's commentary on Citizen Kane, which is on a lot of the Citizen Kane DVDs, he'll talk about all the symbology that's there. So this is not conspiratorial, it's just well known.
Yeah, and but do you think that someone's gonna see that and go, there he is, you know, he was the guy. I'm gonna buy into everything he says.
No, no, no. Of course not. No.
But that's interesting that that is there, because then it's sort of saying that the people who are in that house, you know, I won't say worship him, but like, you know what I mean, basically.
Yeah, they're consciously part of the revolution. I mean, it is cultural Marxism. I mean, the top cultural Marxist writers like Adorno, Horkheimer. I studied under a guy from the Frankfurt School when I did my undergrad and grad work. You know, we talked about this very candidly, very openly. You know, they were very obsessed with pop culture. So I guarantee you, probably a lot of these Marvel production people are familiar with Horkheimer and Adorno.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about? Okay, so I brought this up on Kumite this morning, that there is a lot of references to SJW stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying that they're trying to, turn people into SJWs, because it's obviously done in comedic effect. For example, there's the white dude named Black. What was his name? Black something. Someone in the chat will know. It's a joke.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but he has dreadlocks, and then Deadpool is like, what's your name? Or what's your power? Is it cultural appropriation? That's the line, right? And there's
Right, yeah.
there's a lot of those lines, but there are some people who are like, oh, it's full of SJW nonsense. But I sort of see it as poking fun, because the SJW stuff is so predominant in media and talked about that. And Deadpool has always been like that, talking about pop culture and things happening at the current time. So what was your perspective on that? Did you think that they were trying to be pro, or yeah?
I think you're right that Deadpool was a little more self-consciously comedic and kind of poking fun at that stuff. But if you look at comics overall in the last several decades, I mean, there's no question that they've been utilized for interjecting those kinds of messages. I mean, Hillary got her own comic, within the last couple of years, right around the time of the election. So they created this fat SJW superhero woman called Faith.
Oh,
and she's like a big promoter of Hillary. So I'm just saying that's one example. And I mean, in this one, we had Cosmic. What was that chick's name? Cosmic teenage lesbo.
yeah. Or as Deadpool calls her, 11, a Stranger Things reference.
Right,
that was great. Yeah.
So I mean, you've got this idea of the evolving into the new stage of being the new way to be, and I mean, this is no different really than the ideas of the trans SJW type communities. I mean, they have self-consciously that kind of a mindset that we're actually more evolved than the rest of you who still like getting laid or whatever. We're in between genders. We can come up with all of our new genders because we're actually in many ways superior. I mean, that's kind of a known, I mean, if you've talked to any of these people, that's how they view it. They view it like they're freaking X-Men, dude.
Yeah. And they made her a lesbian now, and she's with that chick, the Asian girl, Konachiwa,
the waifu or whatever.
Yeah. So they did. I did find that, but it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It was sort of like, I could see this character existing in the real world. That's sort of like that. But there were a lot of people.
You're gonna love the tranny character when it comes to, won't you?
Wait. So you think there'll be a tranny character? Do you really?
Dude, there's gonna be a tranny character in a tranny Disney movie in the next 5 years. I'll bet you money.
Wait, didn't they try that recently? Someone in the chat.
They floated the idea. They floated the idea.
But wasn't there like one that was released? There was
like
one that was released.
Disney or like
Marvel. They released a character who was like non-binary or whatever.
Huh.
I can't remember. I'll maybe someone in the chat will know. I'll search it up definitely. But I remember them doing that, and then it bombed so hard that they canceled it. Like, it was just a couple of fucking things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you think that, but again, back to your original point on all these movies, you just think that they're doing this, even though it's done in a comedic way, it's to normalize all this, right?
Yeah, over time, absolutely. I mean, this has been studied, intently. So the way to normalize these kinds of things is to interject it through fiction. I mean, that's just a known thing. I mean, this actually goes back to British intelligence, and they would actually write real operations into their stories all the way back to World War One. Graham Greene was a famous British intelligence operative, and he would kind of write about the plans that they had into his fiction. Our Man in Havana is a good example of this, where he talks about anarchist bombings before anarchist bombings started happening. Mm-hmm. So this has gone on for a long time, but if you're talking about the moral alteration through fiction, yeah, this is a well-known thing. There's a lot of books that discuss it too.
Yeah, thank you to James Woods in the chat. Miss Marvel. Not binary, I guess, because it's Miss Marvel, but there was something along the lines of gender changed and like the character did not do well. Oh my God. Like, okay, actually, yeah. So while I'm going to ask you a question, and while you're answering the question, I'm going to search something. I want to read you the list of Miss Marvel's powers, because it is the most like the shittiest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But yeah, so what did you think about the movie overall? Like, as just even like aside from, like the conspiracies or things that Marvel puts in on purpose or whatever, just as a movie, I'm in like it's entirely.
Yeah, no, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. I mean, it was neat to see a lot of those characters finally hit the screen that you probably read growing up. Mm-hmm. But, and I won't say anymore, but yeah, I mean the puffy Indian kid who has hot hands.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of a stupid ending, but whatever. I mean, it was funny, so it was entertaining. I prefer that to some kind of serious. Serious.
I won't spoil the ending, but that ending was cool. Like it really did trick me at the end. Mm-hmm. It really made me go like, holy shit. Hang on. So Marvel, so okay, wait. Oh wait, maybe. Okay, never mind. I must have been reading someone else's powers, because it's just flight, enhanced strength, durability, and the ability to shoot a consecutive energy bursts from her hands. So she's Iron Man, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Andrew J for 10. J, the open conspiracy was mind-blowing. I had a checklist of things the dissident right talks about that are currently happening, and they were all outlined in this book that was written in 1928.
Amen. That's why I did the talk on it. Yep. And there's a whole bunch of other books that do the exact same thing.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that movie, like I personally, with the what do you call it? Deadpool 2, I found it, like, the action scenes were amazing. Mm-hmm. Favorite characters were Juggernaut and Domino. Domino's powers is just fucking the coolest thing ever. Like, it's just luck, which sounds weird and dumb, but she could just walk through anything and everything just happens that she'll be okay. So that was cool. But the comedy in the movie, while I find, like, I did laugh, there's a lot of jokes that I was like, like, I understood what the joke was, but the forced humor, which is what Deadpool is, so I'm not shitting on that. Some of the jokes just didn't hit for me. I don't know. There were some jokes that made me laugh fucking really hard. The second, when the credits are rolling, the second thing that pops up. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see the credits, but I agree with you that the dialogue, the witty banter was superior in the first one for sure.
Yeah, I think it in my opinion, a lot of, like, the action was absolutely astonishing, right. Like, friggin' incredible. But some of the jokes were sort of like, okay, I guess that's to, like, a lot of fourth wall breaking, which he does, but it's sort of, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on it, or maybe I'm just desensitized from that humor. Because a lot of comedies that make me laugh now are realistic type comedies instead of like Super Troopers 2 was out, you know, like, and it's just like I can't laugh. It's just trying too hard to be funny. But I still say 7.5 out of 10 for me for the second movie.
I'll go with a 7.
A 7? Yeah. You know what? You know what? Also, just one thing, and I'm gonna send Six the invite. He said to send it a little bit earlier, but a thing that kind of pisses me off with every superhero movie, or even a lot of action movies in general, is something I call the near miss. Now, Domino has this power, the luck power, right? Which everything's a near miss, but which makes sense because it's her power. But I find a lot of movies now, action, superhero especially, always use the near miss. So an explosion happens and they're running away and the piece of metal flies right by their head. Yeah. Or like in Ant-Man, but like the best example in Ant-Man, when he's flying the ant, they blow up the room and it's like full of like electricity, and he's flying straight and misses every single shock basically. Or like Spider-Man, Spider-Sense, like I suppose it's just the near miss. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was the worst for this. Every piece of rock, explosion, everything was always a near miss. I can't stand that shit. I can't like it really irks me. I don't know. How do you feel about, I mean, it's just like a thing I think about a lot because I'm a nerd.
Yeah. I remember, I was just watching Sherlock Holmes. Do you remember that? The Guy Ritchie one. Did you watch that?
Yes.
Do you remember the second one? Or is the first? I can't remember if it's first or second, but the exact same thing happens. There's like this entire pig factory explodes, and he runs through the entire thing. I think it does hit one of them, but they run through like giant explosions and everything misses. Yeah, I mean it's kind of ridiculous, and we've seen this kind of CGI sort of thing rehashed over and over and over.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, this has actually been studied. Could you believe this? That there's actually studies where they will watch, when people watch a film, what they'll do is they'll track people's retinas to see where on the screen during a crash or explosion sequence the retina goes, and they'll also monitor people's heart rates.
Really?
Not everybody in the theater, but I'm saying in test situations where they tested this. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what they'll do is they'll see what in a scene actually gets the heart rate going the most, and where the eye goes to keep it focused. And so the reason that there's probably a lot of similarity, cookie cutter type stuff in these action sequences that you're talking about is probably because it's actually been studied, and that's sort of the pattern that most people will stay watching.